Hey, what's up guys? It's Rick with the Digital Divide, and today we're going to be talking about the Sega Saturn. If you watch the channel, you know it's one of my favorite systems of all time. Today I'm going to be talking about some of the more expensive games to collect for the console. If you're like me and you like thrift shopping and going to flea markets and that sort of thing, this will be somewhat of a guide of things to look out for. If you see it in the wild, these are games that you're going to want to pick up. And I'm going to start off with something a bit more affordable on the list, and that is Herc's Adventure. This is a really fun action-adventure game. I actually was digging through my storage unit the other day, and I forgot that I owned this game. And I honestly thought it was worth like maybe 20 or 30 bucks, but I got on eBay and realized it's worth a little bit more than that. So the game is focused on Greek mythology, and you get to pick one of 3 characters to play through the game as. My favorite is Atlanta because she is really focused on ranged combat, which helps you avoid taking damage throughout the game. But there's the aforementioned Herc, who is the star of the show. He's a big melee-focused combatant. This game takes place from an isometric perspective, and it's somewhat similar to the old like Super Nintendo Zelda games, I would say, but with a lot more animation and voice acting and what have you. So this is one game that I played for a little bit, but I never beat it, and I plan to go back and finish it soon because it really is a charming game. It's got a lot of fun animation and some really cool visuals and gameplay.
So, you're the pathetic mortal that Zeus has sent to defeat me? You have no chance against me. I am Hades, Lord of the Underworld.
Now, if we hop over to eBay, you can see that in the box, this one went for $215, this one went for $225, this one went for $215. The disc alone sold for $130. Ultimately, though, I think you're going to spend about $200 if you want to find it in the box. Next game I want to talk about is Mega Man 8 Anniversary Edition. This is one of my favorite games in the series by a mile. I mean, it's just so beautiful looking. It's so bright and colorful. In my opinion, this game has some of the most unique bosses of any Mega Man game. The stages are really varied. There's a lot of variety here. For example, this is like a circus clown level where you can interact with the environment. It's not just static imagery. It's really cool, and I really like this game, but it has some hilariously bad voice acting.
Dr. Light, how's it going? Will it be okay?
I'm almost finished. The battery will be charged in 10 minutes.
That's good. By the way, what do you make of these?
These? Seems to be energy resources. But I've never seen this type on Earth. I don't know where this energy came from, but you cannot let it fall into Dr. Wowie's hands. You must recover all the energy immediately, Mega Man.
So if we hop over to eBay, you can see that this one sold in the box for $650. The one for $140 was damaged, so we can ignore that. This one sold for $325, $420, $423. This is a different Mega Man game, but also has a lot of value. So ultimately, you're going to spend around $400 if you want this in the box. Next game I want to talk about is Albert's Odyssey. This is one of my favorite RPGs on the system. It is so charming. The Saturn was known for having some just really amazing 2D visuals. It was certainly capable of doing 3D, but it really excelled when it came to 2D. This is a great example of that. It is a more traditional style turn-based RPG, so think Final Fantasy back on the 16-bit consoles. It does have random enemy encounters, so that can be a bit frustrated. I think that gameplay mechanic is a little bit antiquated these days. You'll be walking around and then just randomly get into a fight. It does have transparencies on the overworld, which is not common for a Sega Saturn game. But overall, I can't recommend this one enough. It's really fun. So if we hop over to eBay, you'll see the most recent one sold for $265, $250, $230. So you can see this is going for well over $200 on average if you want it in the box. And there's some that go over $300. So I think a fair number for this, if you want it in the box, you're going to end up spending around $250 or so. Next game I want to talk about is Magic Knight Rayearth. Now this was the last game that released on the Sega Saturn in North America, which is why it's so expensive. It's also an amazing game with some of the best 2D animation that ever came out on the Saturn. It looks absolutely gorgeous. You can see like the hair swaying on the characters as they move about. It's just really, really animated and colorful and just a lot of fun to play.
Master Zagot, I implore you, return me to my original form. The power of the Magic Knights can no longer be ignored. It is my duty to destroy them before they become powerful enough to threaten you.
And in my opinion, this game has some of the best music of any RPG that came out on the system. Alright, so if we hop over to eBay, we can see that this game is selling for a lot. Most recent one sold for over $800. This one sold for $500. Just the disc by itself sold for almost $400. This one sold for almost $900. $750 here, $800. I mean, this is a very, very expensive game. On average, if you want it in the box, you're going to spend between $800 and $850. Next game I want to talk about is Burning Rangers. This is one of the most unique games that ever came out on the Saturn. It also came out towards the tail end of the Saturn's lifespan. It is fully 3D, and it runs and plays beautifully if you have the analog controller for the Saturn. It features underwater levels with a lot of verticality. It's really impressive if you consider the hardware limitations of the Saturn. This game really took advantage and squeezed every ounce of juice out of this system.
It's the same thing I saw on the lower level. Why?
Run!
Who is it? Who's there?
The defense systems have been activated! Hurry, get out of here!
Hop over to eBay, you'll see the last copy sold for $570, $600, $760, $620. Just the disc sold for $220. So this is a very, very, very expensive game. If you want it complete in the box, it's going to cost you around $600. The next game I want to talk about is Resident Evil. Unfortunately, this is the only port of a Resident Evil game that the Saturn ever got. But thankfully, it's a really good one. The game is very faithful to the original PlayStation version and even includes extras that were not in that game, and I really, really enjoyed this one. I owned this one back in the day, and I was digging through my storage unit recently. I thought I still had it, but apparently I must have sold it because I no longer have it, and it's #1 on my list of games that I need to get back in the collection because I really, really enjoyed this one. If you try to play the game today, unfortunately, you know, it does have some antiquated gameplay mechanics, such as like the tank controls and, you know, this loading screen every time you open a door or go to a new area. But the loading screens are just a limitation of the memory on these old consoles back in the day. If you can get past that, this is still worth playing. And if you're watching this footage, the headshots on the Saturn version are so much more satisfying than the PlayStation version. There's a lot more blood that like mists out of the zombie heads when you shoot them. It's just really, really cool looking, and I can't recommend playing this one enough if you are collecting for the Saturn, but it is somewhat pricey. If we jump over to eBay, you can see that the last sold copy went for $250 with the box. If you want it outside of the box, just the disc, you can get it for around $100, which is a great deal. But yeah, if you want this in the box, it's going to set you back around $250 or so. Next game I want to talk about is the Street Fighter Collection. This is a game that released later towards the end of the Saturn's lifespan. and goes for quite a bit of money these days. And that's due to a number of reasons. Primarily, the Sega Saturn was a 2D powerhouse, so this collection of Street Fighter games is considered one of the most arcade accurate ports that these games ever got. They play beautifully on the Saturn at full speed, and it's just a collection of classic fighting games that everyone knows and loves. And these are the best versions of those games that you can get on console, in my opinion. This one, if we jump over to the eBay, is going for a lot of money, around $450 for the last sold copy. This one went for $335, and then this one went for $380. These were the only 3 copies I could find on eBay that were sold in the last few months. So if you want this, it's going to set you back around $350 to $450. Next game I want to talk about is Panzer Dragoon Saga. This was the last game that came out on the Saturn, and it is an absolutely massive RPG. If I'm not mistaken, I believe this one spans 4 discs, so it's just humongous in scope. And it was also, again, one of the last games that came out on the Saturn, which is why it goes for a lot of money, because the Saturn was not a particularly successful console, so there weren't a lot of these copies that were sent out to retail and out there in the wild. And in addition to that, there's rumors that the source code went missing for this game, which is why it's never been ported to any other console. This game features, for the first time in the console's history, outdoor areas where you're on foot and off of your dragon, which is really cool. But although the combat isn't as fast or fluid as the first 2 entries, which were more like arcade experiences, it's still really fun. This is much more of an RPG though, however. Definitely recommend picking this one up if you find it in the wild. I don't know that I could recommend paying full price for it though, because it goes for a lot. If we hop over to eBay, we can see that the last sold copy went for $755. This one went for almost $900. This one went for exactly $900. That one went for $950. So you can see this very expensive game. It averages around $900. This one, actually, it looks like this one at the bottom here went for over $1,000. So yeah, if you want this one in the box, it's going to set you back around $900. Last but not least, we have Daytona USA Netlink Edition. Now, I want to be clear here. When the Saturn launched, it launched alongside the original Daytona USA. Later on, there was a revision of that game called Daytona USA Championship Circuit Edition that had additional tracks, better car models, and a much, much better frame rate. So we're not talking about either of these 2 games. We're talking about the Netlink Edition, which is a separate thing. In reality, though, this is essentially the Championship Circuit Edition, but with online capability. And the reason it's so expensive is because it was never sold in stores, so you could not buy this at a store. It was also one of only 4 games that supported the Netlink adapter so that you could play it online. The only way to buy this, if you wanted to buy it back in the day, was on Sega's online store, and they only had it available for sale on that online store towards the very end of the Saturn's lifespan, when nobody was buying Saturn games. So this sold abysmal numbers. Like, nobody bought this game, which is why it's so rare. So if you see this disc in the wild, if you're at a flea market or yard sale or antique shop, buy it, because it is worth a lot of money. As for the gameplay, again, this is really just the Championship Circuit Edition, but with online play. So it has all of the new tracks, like the Dinosaur Canyon, which is my personal favorite. If you've played the Championship Circuit Edition of Daytona USA, then you know what to expect here. If we hop on eBay, this game is so rare that I can't find a single sold copy of it ever. There is, however, one active listing of the game, and he's asking $9,000, and he'll probably get it, because not only is this game exceptionally rare, but this one is complete in the box and in mint condition. So it's worth a ton of money. This is like the holy grail of Sega Saturn collecting. So that's really going to do it for me today, guys. I'm sure I missed a lot of games. I can't get everything in one video here. I'm sure I'll do a follow-up video, but as always, thank you for watching.